So good morning. I'm going to buck the trend and speak in English. I apologize. Well, firstly, I want to say thank you to Ivan for putting this all together, obviously without whom none of us would be here speaking about inequality. And I want to speak about something that's a little bit strange, so I hope you'll bear with me for this. But I want to start first with an analogy of Plato's cave. So just as a brief reminder of the story, it's a story of some prisoners that are chained in a cave, and they're looking at a wall where there are shadows that are cast on this wall. And to these prisoners, that's all they know. They just know the shadows. And they think that all that reality consists of is these shadows, essentially. And one day, one of these prisoners escapes, and he climbs towards the light, and he sees reality for what it actually is. And I think that's a pretty good analogy for trying to understand what society is today. So we're all looking at the shadows on the cave wall, completely unaware of what reality is. I think our perception of reality is conditioned by a few people who make us see things that's in their interests. We're basically looking at things that are all in their interests, right? So we're all living in this cave. And I want to talk today about UFOs, or UAPs as they're known, so unidentified anomalous phenomena. And I think it shows that we're living in the cave, and we're just staring at the cave wall, essentially. So I've only got about 4 minutes, so I'm going to try to just share a couple of quotes that I find interesting. Make of them what you will. I think they come from pretty well-credentialed people. So the first one is Edgar Mitchell, who's an Apollo 14 astronaut, and he was the 6th person to walk on the moon. And he said, "I happen to be privileged enough to be in on the fact that we've been visited on this planet and the UFO phenomenon is real." Right? It's been covered up by governments for quite some time now. There's Brian O'Leary, who's a NASA astronaut and a scientist, who stated that for nearly 50 years, the secrecy apparatus within the US government has kept from the public UFO and alien contact information. He said, "We have contact with alien cultures." Now, I know this sounds crazy, but bear with me. Gorbachev, ex-leader of the Soviet Union, he said, "The phenomenon of UFOs is real. I know that there are scientific organizations which study the problem, and it must be treated seriously." Right? There's US Army Colonel Karl Nell, who said non-human intelligence exists. Non-human intelligence has been interacting with humanity. This interaction is not new and has been ongoing. And when he was asked how confident he was in these assertions, he said that there's zero doubt. And then the last quote that I have here is from David Grusch, who in 2023, he's a former US intelligence officer, and in 2023, he testified before the US Congress that the US government, has possession of non-human spacecraft and even the remains of their pilots, right? Now, obviously, I can't go in depth as much as I'd like to in this subject, because I've only got, a minute 30 left. But every time I bring up this subject, people always ask me, like, who cares? Like, why does it matter, essentially? And I think it matters for the simple reason that it shows that we're living in Plato's cave, so to speak. As in, we're not paying attention to the reality as it is, because we're being shown a very specific perspective, right? So the point that I wanted to raise, and I'm going to bring this back to inequality, is that inequality isn't just about money and power, right? Inequality is about knowledge as well. And it's when you suppress this knowledge, right, that you can then control people. So I think this goes beyond particular political parties. This isn't just a blue or a red issue, especially in Malta, or even in the US, actually. It's just knowledge is power, right? And if you can control the knowledge, you can control the people. So I think that's the issue. That's what's happening in the world, right? Even in Malta, of course. So I think, personally, the best way to turn the tide on this inequality is to have a serious discussion about these UFOs or these UAPs. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.